Guadalupe Island lies 150 miles off the coast of Mexico and is approximately 180 miles south of San Diego. The 98 square miles of land above water is very desolate, especially since the introduction of goats has decimated the native forest trees. The island is largely barren, but does have enough elevation to stop some rain clouds and support native forest. Efforts to reduce or eliminate the goat population are underway, and their removal would allow the reestablishment of the native forest over time. The island is geographically and nautically isolated because of the deep surrounding waters. It was a refuge for the northern elephant seal and the Guadalupe fur seal. They were nearly hunted to extinction, with only a few remaining on the island. Today we know that the northern elephant seal has made a significant comeback, and the Guadalupe fur seal population is slowly increasing. After a day and a half on board the Horizon, we arrived early in the morning at Guadalupe Island. The weather was calm and the crew got right to work putting the cages in the water. We were given a how to get in and out of the cage safely demonstration, and then we started our 1-hour cage tours. The first hour did not bring any white sharks to the cage, but we were new to the whole process, so that didn't really matter. My partner and I were teamed up with Mauricio and Lupe from Mexico City, and they were a great couple to dive with. The vessels that bring tourists out to cage dive with the sharks all have similar operation protocols. Chumming is carried out using chopped mackerel and mammalian blood. Tuna heads are put on the end of lines or in burlap sacks, and the white sharks respond to the scent and to the possibility of an occasional meal. When we saw our first shark, it was in the distance under the cage, so we really didn't get a good perspective of the size and beauty of the creature. Then along came Shredder. He gave us a great show for the remainder of that first day. There were others that came along, but none were as consistent as Shredder. Shredder was first tagged and observed as a young male in 2001 and has returned to the same area every year since then. Shredder is approximately 15 feet in length and bears the scars of many male-to-male interactions. He is now one of the boss males, big enough to put off almost any other attack, and does not suffer the presence of other males readily. Although counterintuitive, Shredder did not apparently get his name from his shredded dorsal fin. Rather, the story goes, back when he was young, unpredictable, and rambunctious, he somehow got around to biting Horizon's anchor line in two in a fit of anger or play or, well, who knows why. The Horizon dive master Martin had warned us several times about keeping our body parts inside the cage. It was amazing how these very large critters could sneak up on you sometimes. You would be focused on one area, and the restricted vision caused by the dive mask would prevent you from seeing another white shark approaching from a different direction. It happened more than once, and, one would imagine, it would only take a little nip for one to lose that dangling part. In this next clip, it is easy to see how an accident might happen if you let things dangle outside the cage. I must admit that Tim reacted very calmly to the sudden appearance of Shredder. During the course of the next 2.5 days, we spent 4 hours a day locked up in the cage watching for white sharks. During our time out of the cage, we got warm, had some food, and watched from the surface. We observed Guadalupe fur seals, green turtles, and dolphins from the boat deck while in between cage shifts. The weather was generally very nice and the water was calm. In some ways, watching from the surface gave a better perspective of the grace and size of these beautiful sharks.
Look at the size of that.
During the trip we were able to recognize 6 or so male white sharks from the photo ID catalog, and it was quite fun to learn their history and hear little anecdotes about their behavior on previous expeditions. Mauricio Hoya, doing research on great white sharks at Guadalupe, came on board and gave a little presentation about great white sharks, their behavior, and his research. Currently he's doing sonic tagging and has chat stations deployed around the island to follow the diel movement of the great white sharks of Guadalupe Island. We got pictures of one of his recently tagged males by the name of Danny, and you can see the sonic tag on the left of the dorsal fin in these shots. Sometimes, when there weren't any sharks at the boat, we got a little bored in the cages. Our team, however, always found something to do to while away the time. Tim was particularly good at figuring out new things to do. Catching the mackerel that surrounded the cages was the initial way to pass the time. Then Tim figured that if he brought down some chum in Ziploc bags, he could attract the mackerel into the cages and catch a couple. It was, of course, illegal to capture and eat the fish, although we were tempted. The thought now is that great white sharks are at Guadalupe Island to feed on northern elephant seals and to mate. According to Dive Master Martin, this is the only area where satellite tracking has shown both male and female adults to be in the same place at the same time. So does that mean it involves mating? Well, we don't know. But anyhow, it is theorized that the females will eventually give birth in the Sea of Cortez. The migration to the central North Pacific, that is the Shark Cafe, that has been shown through satellite tagging is thought to revolve around the feeding strategy where they feed on squid and fish. All too soon, the 2.5 days of diving were over, and we had to get underway for a trip back to Ensenada, Mexico, for a customs check-in and then back to San Diego. The trip to Guadalupe Island was very well planned and executed, and the weather was excellent. Although it is a long ways to go to see white sharks, it was well worth it.